And I wanted to share with you today our noontime inspiration from the original writings of Paramhansa Yogananda. And today, I'd like to begin with a quote that I find very helpful. He says, "The master responded to people according to the energy they projected. Often, what they projected and the way he responded were very subtle. He once refused the application to the monastery of a young man who, some of the monks felt, was very sincere. If you could see his karma, was all the master said." And this is an important lesson for us in discernment, knowing, for instance, the people we relate to, whether they are influencing us in positive ways, in negative ways, what to do when they are influencing us, how do we strengthen our own karma. It's very important to be able to find our own center and to know how to respond to things. I've learned, I know for myself, many lessons in life on this particular topic, and I'm sure all of us can relate to those. You know, it's interesting when you think about it. Christ had 12 disciples. One of those disciples, Judas, turned out to be also the person who betrayed him. And Christ knew that this man would betray him, but still he let him into the circle of disciples who traveled with him everywhere. And similarly, there's a story about Yogananda who, while he was in India, there was another monk in training with him, under Sri Yukteswar, Yogananda's guru. And he had an argument, Yogananda did, with Sri Yukteswar. Sri Yukteswar was scolding him for protecting this young man and even hanging out with him because Sri Yukteswar could read his character and knew he would rather betray Yogananda. And notwithstanding that, and Yogananda seeing that, he still invited this young man to America and to be part of the leadership in his work. And sure as shooting, that young man ended up betraying him. Yogananda knew it would happen, but he also knew that he was the only channel who could help that young man, and that it was his duty always to try. And for years after that, he would send him, a case of mangoes as a gift, and the man would reject them. So I'm saying this because it's one thing to recognize the character of another person. I remember once asking Swami Kriyananda, what if I can tell when a new person comes and wants to take Kriya and whatnot? What if I can tell that they don't have a sound character and that they will not only at some point reject it, but perhaps turn on us and, create negativity and confusion in people. And Swami Kriyananda said, you still serve them. You still try to help them, because that's the example that his guru set. But it doesn't mean that we take in the negativity that that person is exhibiting. And it does mean that let me tell you another example. When Swami Kriyananda founded the New Renunciate Order, and we were in Italy at the first initiation of that, and a few of us were discussing things with him in his home after the initiation. And I asked him how, if people come to us and they want to take Swami vows in this order, and we don't know them, if they don't live in our communities, because this order is open to anyone who wants to live their lives completely dedicated to knowing the divine within. And I said, what if such a person comes that we don't know? How do we recognize whether they are right for taking the Swami vow in this order? And he said, even if they live at a distance, you can ask them how they're living, and you can tell if they are living the life, meaning living their life for God alone. You'll be able to tell. There's a way to recognize that. And the way ultimately we best recognize that is when we live that life ourselves, because the reflection is always going to be there. We'll be able to recognize that in the other person. And so it is with the discernment that Yogananda is talking about in this particular quote today. He could recognize the karma of that person. And the young monks did not recognize it. They only saw the sincerity. They couldn't see beyond that. They couldn't even see through the sincerity to see that there was also insincerity. But Yogananda could see that karma. It's a hard lesson, but we learn discernment by practicing living a more intuitive life. And by that, I don't mean a life of just emotional ups and downs of feeling. I mean the intuitive life centered in calmness and stillness of our hearts in meditation. So a tall order, but a wonderful one in our life. Joy to you tomorrow. Blessings. Bye-bye now.